This is the first edition of Science and Health by Mary Baker Glover, later known as Mary Baker Eddy. Preface. Leaning on the sustaining infinite with loving trust, the trials of today are brief, and tomorrow is big with blessings. The wakeful shepherd tending his flocks beholds from the mountain's top the first faint morning beam ere cometh the risen day. So from soul's loftier summits shines the pale star to the prophet shepherd, and it traverses night, over to where the young child lies in cradled obscurity that shall waken a world. Over the night of error dawn the morning beams and guiding star of truth, and the wise men are led by it to science, to that which repeats the eternal harmony reproduced in proof of immortality and God. The time for thinkers has come, and the time for revolutions, ecclesiastic and social, must come. Truth, independent of doctrines or time-honored systems, stands at the threshold of history. Contentment with the past, or the cold conventionality of custom, may no longer shut the door on science. Though empires fall, he whose right it is shall reign. Ignorance of God should no longer be the stepping stone to faith. Understanding Him, whom to know aright is life, is the only guarantee of obedience. Since the hoary centuries but faintly shadow forth the tireless intelligence at work for man, this volume may not open at once a new thought and make it familiar. It has the task of a pioneer to hack away at the tall oak and cut the rough granite, leaving future ages to declare what has been done. We made our first discovery that science mentally applied would heal the sick in 1864, and since then have tested it on ourselves and hundreds of others, and never found it fail to prove the statement herein made of it. The science of man alone can make him harmonious, unfold his utmost possibilities, and establish the perfection of man. To admit God the principle of all being and live in accordance with this principle is the science of life. But to reproduce the harmony of being, errors of personal sense must be destroyed, even as the science of music must correct tones caught from the ear to give the sweet concord of sound. There are many theories of physics and theology, and many calls in each of their directions for the right way. But we propose to settle the question of what is truth on the ground of proof. Let that method of healing the sick and establishing Christianity be adopted that is found to give the most health and make the best Christians, and you will then give science a fair field, in which case we are assured of its triumph over all opinions and beliefs. Sickness and sin have ever had their doctors, but the question is, have they become less because of them? The longevity of our antediluvians would say no, and the criminal records of today utter their voices little in favor of such a conclusion. Not that we would deny to Caesar the things that are his, but that we ask for the things that are truths, and safely affirm from the demonstrations we have been able to make that science would have eradicated sin, sickness, and death in a less period than 6,000 years. We find great difficulties in starting this work right. Some shockingly false claims are already made to its practice. Mesmerism, its very antipode, is one. Hitherto, we have never in a single instance of our discovery or practice found the slightest resemblance between mesmerism and the science of life. No especial idiosyncrasy is requisite for a learner, although spiritual sense is more adapted to it than even the intellect. And those who would learn this science without a high moral standard will fail to understand it until they go up higher. Owing to our explanations constantly vibrating between the same points, an irksome repetition of words must occur. Also, the use of capital letters, genders, and technicalities peculiar to the science, variety of language, or beauty of diction must give place to close analysis and unembellished thought. Hoping all things, enduring all things, to do good to the upright in heart, and to bless them that curse us, and bear to the sorrowing and the sick consolation and healing, we commit these pages to posterity. Mary Baker Glover.